Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in into Brain Aura podcast session. So, before we begin with the podcast session, I would like to give a brief introduction about Brain Aura. We are a small team of experts from various academic and industrial backgrounds. Our services are cohesively designed for young PhD grads to academicians, researchers, and entrepreneurs. And we provide services ranging from thesis writing and review support, research support, data analysis, personality development, and much more. To know more about our services, do visit our website www.brainaura.com. So many of you have been asking questions regarding the journal publication from quite some time. And to answer all your questions in one go, so we have invited Ms. Renisha Winston today. And before we begin, I would like to give a brief introduction about Ms. Winston. So she is an editorial director of iManager Publications, which is one of the India's largest scientific research publishers. And she has been able to take the company to one of the most respectable journal publishers in India. iManager Publications publishes 28 academic journals in scientific, technology, education, and management areas in print and digital formats. And Ms. Winston, she has graduated from Tamil Nadu Agricultural University and has worked with large organizations in the field of content development. So, welcome, Ms. Winston, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sheel.
So, Ms. Winston, we have been getting a lot of questions regarding journal publications and how to navigate through the challenges through it. What are the challenges that people face? And there have been a lot of questions around it. So, we will be beginning the
Okay.
session from few of the most asked questions from our audiences. So, I would like to begin know your perspective, like how important when somebody is writing a journal, how important it is to stick to the writing style.
The journal writing style differs from journal to journal. If you see society journals like ACM or IEEE, each of them have a different journal template. And same for SCI rank journals or Scopus rank journals. They have a journal template, which is most preferably will be in latex. But when you see some other journal publishers, like who are not very much into technology, they ask the authors to submit it in PDF or Word so that they have their own journal writing style, which could be, they could have a design team and they will work on the references and all that. So it all differs from journal to journal. But on the whole, when a reviewer or an editor is seeing your research paper, the journal writing style or the presentation of the paper, I would say, rather than the journal writing style, it's very important because like as a reviewer or an editor, when they look into the paper, that's the first most thing that catches their eye. So I would say it is very important for the author to stick to the journal writing style.
Okay, great. So I would also like to know on this same thing from your own personal experiences. So what is the percentage, probably an approximate number, that you see those manuscripts are getting rejected because the content is not properly organized? What's your experience with that?
Uh, as you know, in any research paper, the content is the king. I mean, a poorly organized content reflects very badly on the researcher, and that has a very important say on the rejection or acceptance percentage. It's always like when you say, like when there are young researchers, they have problems in organizing their content properly because they don't understand how a research paper should be organized. So I would say like nearly 50% of the manuscripts submitted get rejected based on poorly organized content.
Okay. And from what do you think, like from the reviewer's perspective, the overall structure of a paper, how important it is that?
The overall structure is very important because like starting from the abstract keywords, introduction, literature review, right through the discussion, methodology, or conclusion and the references, the structure of the paper, gives the overall perspective of the research. So I think it's very, very important for the authors to maintain the overall structure. So I would advise young researchers to go through a lot of research papers before they start writing their own research papers. So that would give them an idea of how to structure the paper.
Okay, that sounds good. And
Mm.
regarding the language skills of the author, what are your views on this? Like how they should work around the language? What kind of language will work in the context of the author writing it?
Language skills and particularly grammar and usage of content is very important to an author. But as an editor, I feel like if an author is coming from a non-English background, like people, let's say, like if it is a Western journal and we have a paper coming from India,
Mm-hmm.
the language of the author might not be at par with that of the editor's expectation. So in such case, I wouldn't say that all editors are quite lenient on this, but in my personal view, I would take a more lenient aspect here if the content of the paper is good. So that language is something that can be improved with help from editorial services.
Okay. So the one of the common questions that has been asked from our audiences, it's like whenever they are trying to structure an argument in a paper, so how they should go about
Hmm.
it.
Arguments form the most important part of a research paper because like that's what we call as discussion. So the discussion should be based on what the existing literature is on that particular research, as well as what the results of their research study are. And then finally, it's about how you present it to your reader. So that forms the major crux of the research paper. So it's
Okay.
very important, and that comes with time. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say any novice researcher would be very good in framing the discussions.
Yeah.
So it comes with writing more and more research papers. You really get better with more research papers.
Yeah, that I can agree. It's like practice only what makes us
Yeah,
perfect around
practice
it.
makes perfect.
Yeah, the more
Definitely. Yeah.
we write, the more we analyze it, and that's
Yes,
how we
yes,
become
yes.
better and better. So
Better.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. I
definitely.
mean, that comes with time only. So there
Yeah.
has been few more questions, and even the Brain Aura team have also experienced this with our audiences and our people who consult us. Like we see there are many
Okay.
manuscripts, they get rejected multiple times because sometimes what happened, the reviewers' comments are not resolved. So how
Mm.
do you think, what is your idea, like for our audience or the people who are writing it, how should be able to resolve those comments?
I think it basically stems from a lack of understanding on the readers or the author's part in understanding the reviewer's comments.
Okay.
Because the reviewer might be expecting something which is not really understood by the author, so
Yeah.
he's not addressing it. So, in that case, I would advise the authors to write an email to the editor
Yeah.
asking them to explain the reviewer's comments. So, I think that could help them. So otherwise, like if you are without understanding the reviewer's point, you are submitting a manuscript again and again, would only lead to rejection.
Yeah, I agree because the thing is, this is a
Yeah.
long-term process. So probably people are trying to do things in hurry.
Yeah.
So
Yes, but actually, like not every editor might have the time to do this for the authors also. So it's a tricky issue here
okay.
because like getting reviewers' comments itself is very uh, difficult because it takes a lot of time
Yeah.
to get a reviewer's comments and then passing on to the author. And again, you cannot go back to the reviewer most of the time. But if the corresponding editor is a more knowledgeable person and he can convey the reviewer's comments to the author in a more presentable or understandable manner, I think
Mhm.
this could be solved.
Okay, so communication is the key, the right communication.
Communication is the key
Yes,
here.
so
Yes.
that results in resolving all these gaps that are
Issues.
being
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Agreed, fair enough. So we have also seen, like, there are some authors, they misuse the issues around it. Like, have you experienced something like that? If you have come across an author who misuses the issues, and what's the importance of it in your view?
See, most of the time, like there are two major issues that we come across with authors. The main one is plagiarism, and the second one is dual submission. See, I will start with plagiarism because plagiarism, there are different kinds of plagiarism, as you might have seen in authors' papers. So they don't understand what they're doing, and most of the time they tell that it is like it was out of neglect. The plagiarism was out of neglect. But what we most commonly see is they don't understand how to paraphrase, and they
Yeah.
make it as a plagiarized content. That's one thing. And the second thing is dual submission, because dual submission is very, very unethical, and it is highly disputable point between two journals, because finally the effort of two journals are getting wasted here.
Yeah.
Though for the author it doesn't really feel important, the first come first serve is going to be published. So the journal who's going to publish the paper first, is
Yeah.
going to have the first say on that. So I think that is one area that really concerns me with regard to authors.
I agree, because I think plagiarism has become a major issue also across all the
Yes.
domains wherever the content is being developed. And because we
Yeah.
live in such a digital world, like it's easier to
Mm.
even figure out like if the content
Yes,
is being
definitely.
plagiarized or not. So yeah, that
Yeah.
has become quite essential perspective also. So
Yeah.
again, we would like to ask, like, since we know, like, to submit a plagiarism-free manuscript is one of the prerequisite, and there are certain percentage, like at least there's a certain percentage, like the content should be free of plagiarism. So, any tips
Mm.
from your side, like how people can pay attention to avoid plagiarism, what they should be doing it, and what are the things which are acceptable and unacceptable in the field of plagiarism?
So in plagiarism, there are two types. Like if you're fully presenting a paper like your paper, that is called it's called a complete plagiarism. Complete plagiarism, you're doing it out of your own will, which is highly condemnable. But like there are types of plagiarism which is called mosaic plagiarism, where you take parts and pieces of a paper and fix it into your paper.
Mhm.
Ideally, the author could be thinking of using uh, some parts from an earlier research, but they don't know how to paraphrase it.
Yeah.
So paraphrasing is very important here, because you have many manuals on how to paraphrase existing research papers, because ideally, like here we could also relate to the language skills of the author. If the language
Yeah.
skills of the author is better,
Mhm.
he will be in a better position to understand an earlier research paper and paraphrase it. Because paraphrasing it, you're not going to present the research in the existing words. You're
Yeah.
going to understand the crux of the paper and present it in your own words.
True.
So which is acceptable. But
True.
otherwise, if you're going to use the exact paragraph as it is, you have
Mhm.
to only give it within quotes. But giving within quotes, it's not acceptable in scientific writing.
True.
And even if you are paraphrasing it, you have to give
Yeah.
citations. You
Yeah.
have to refer this content. So all these are tips. I think like we cannot discuss about this in this podcast. That's a different. I mean, it's a huge area
Yeah. Yeah.
on tips to avoid plagiarism. Yes.
True. I agree. I understand, because it's a very major concern that we see.
Yes.
So absolutely, I agree. And
Okay.
so we want to understand, like, how is publishing cost controls the publishing industry sector, and what do you think is like the important role when while selecting a journal for publications?
Publishing cost is controlling the publishing industry majorly, in my view. And because if you see most of the journals, the publishing cost varies from $150 to $10,000. So, which is a very huge thing for people from developing countries.
True.
And there are two major factors. Like it all depends on what the author is deciding to go with. If you're going with an open access journal,
Yeah.
yes, you're agreeing for paying the article publishing charges in one go, which will be in bulk. It
Yeah.
can range from 500 US dollars to 10,000, depending upon the quality and like the importance of the journal. Second thing, if you're going for a subscription based journal,
Mhm.
most of the journals don't have a article publishing charge,
Yeah.
but there are few journals which do a double dipping also. So as an author, it is very important for you to analyze clearly all the platforms, and you need to read about the journal before you are going to publish a paper in that. So you need to do some definite research on the journal
Yeah.
and consider their history and how long they've been in the industry and what is their review process and what is their criteria regarding
Yeah.
payments, everything, understand that, and then you can go with the journal for publication. So there are many good journals
Yeah.
which don't even have a publishing fee. And in my view, I feel authors should not go for a pay journal, because like it is your research. You are spending a lot of time and effort into building your content. And finally, like, but this is a major area of dispute,
Yeah.
and I leave it to the author's point of view.
Okay.
Selecting the journal, it could be an open access or subscription based, but doing a research on the journal is very important.
Okay, that's true. And
Yeah.
now coming to the question, like you have been working in publishing industry for a really long time, and there has been quite tough competition also in this sector. And so we want to know, like, what are the challenges that you have faced in this area, and what are the strict guidelines a publishing house must follow?
Coming to the competition, because we've been there for the past 18 years.
Yeah.
So initially when we started, there were not much journals from India,
Hmm.
but there was a mushrooming of predatory journals from India after 2010.
Okay.
So that really put a very negative view on all journals from India. So that was a very bad phase for the Indian academic publishing industry.
Hmm.
So coming to the competition, I would say, like, we have a specific uh, consumer, we have a specific target. So we are on the right path. And regarding the guidelines, a publishing house should follow a very strict peer review, not have a acceptance rate more than 45%, and they should follow all guidelines. I mean, like, right from the peer review to the EAC acceptance, it should go through a process. So if you follow all these guidelines,
Yeah.
though there are competition, you will survive in the market, because in the long run, your authors and your reviewers or the editors or people whoever is connected with you will understand your brand and how you are different.
Yes, it's like quality matters over content.
Yes,
Sorry,
yes, yeah,
quantity. So
yeah,
definitely, quality always is a long run game. So
yeah,
yeah, that's an interesting insight. And
yeah.
nevertheless, this is another interesting thing we want to ask, like a kind of a snapshot. What do you think is one of the
Mm.
magic formula that if somebody's writing a manuscript, so they can for a review, so they can make it through the first time itself? Is there any magic formula or smart move that people can follow?
I wouldn't say there's no such magic formula, Sheil, because if you are a first time researcher,
Yeah.
I think like you will almost 90% of the time, I have not seen them go through in their first attempt,
Okay.
because they will definitely come back with revisions.
Okay.
And because it shows like it all comes with experience, as I said in the earlier, I mean, because right from framing your
Yeah.
discussion, right from adding your literature, and it comes with research takes a lot of time. A researcher needs a lot of patience to
Hmm.
grow in his career, and that comes with hard work, and there is no easy formula for that.
That makes sense actually. It's always a hard work that will count at the end of the day. So any last advice for our audience or any insight that you would like to share that can be helpful to all of us?
Definitely, like, see, as a researcher, uh, try to don't try to skip anything that is involved with your research. Do the things rightly at the right time, because right from selecting a research topic to the right journal and framing your research paper, just work smartly, and also like get deeply into your paper. Do it with a passion,
Yeah.
because whatever you do with a passion, it will be definitely successful. So right from framing everything, every step of your research, do it with an ultimate passion, and uh, think that how my research is going to change this particular field or this particular area of research. How is it going to impact nationally? How is it going to impact globally? So only if you think that out of the box, your research will also be noticed, and your paper could be one of the pioneer papers or could be cited well also.
Hmm.
So there is no easy way. And this is one thing I want to reiterate to our audience here.
Yeah.
So take the difficult step. Even if your research is going to take a long time,
Hmm.
than See, if you take an easy topic, you can complete your research in much earlier time.
True.
But I would advise our audience to take a difficult step, because that gives you more a much better chance to
Yeah.
get cited well later on.
Yeah, true. I mean, challenging topics always work really well because we
Yes,
get to
yes,
explore a more and navigating through the places where or the information which has not been explored. So it also helps, as you said, to create an impact globally and nationally. So I think when we
yes,
are trying to navigate challenging topics, so we are actually fulfilling the goal of being a researcher, the idea of writing
yes,
a paper. So I think that really is quite helpful in that ways.
yes.
So, yeah, I mean,
Uh,
it's a very great
so
session.
yeah, and I should really congratulate the Brainora team for doing this, and also like I really acknowledge Brainora team's effort in helping young researchers, because your guidance to them in putting all the things in the right perspective will really help them to become better researchers. Yeah,
Thank you so much because
yeah,
when we get compliments from like people from your domain or from your experience, that is really helpful and motivating for us also. Because the intention is to help young grads to navigate through the difficult points they are facing easily and to make build a system where things can work out properly. So, thank you so much. And
thank you, Sheil. Yeah,
And thank you, Ms. Winston, for being here today. It has been a great session, and there has been so many things we have learned. I'm sure our audience have definitely enjoyed onto it. And thank you so much. And thank you to our audience for tuning into it and listening to it. And if you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, please do put your ideas in the comment section itself. That will be helpful to us. So, once again, Ms. Winston, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you, Sheil.
Thank you.